Berwick. Why is Gus standing by this huge rock?
Broa. Gus grew up near Devil's Tower and is making a wall clock for his brother. For the face of the clock, he's carving the tower. I'm excited to see this clock.
Well, greetings from Natasha in Australia's beautiful Uluru-Kata-Tjuta National Park. I'm looking forward to learning more about America's first national monument, Devil's Tower. Gus begins the wall clock project by milling the rails and stiles for the clock body frame. Here he is ripping Peruvian walnut and red oak. As Berwick explained, Gus is making this wall clock for his brother Steve, who lives in Wyoming. Gus and Steve grew up near Devil's Tower, which has a special meaning to them both. While in college, Steve worked summers at Devil's Tower as a park ranger. His job was to spray weeds, particularly Canadian thistle. Steve got married at the base of Devil's Tower. Shortly thereafter, he and his new bride climbed to the top of the 900-foot igneous rock. Here Gus will join the front and side of the clock body using pocket holes. Here he is using the Masca jig, which he much favors over the Craig jigs. The next step is to route the tenons and mortises using the Lee FMT Pro. This awesome jig makes mortises and tenons of various sizes, which is perfect for joining the rails and stiles of the front of the clock. The Lee FMT Pro is highly accurate, and the joint tightness can be adjusted by the turn of the knob on the left side of the jig. Gus cannot find anything bad to say. The manual and video with the jig are excellent.
Gus told me that he grew up in a small town in Wyoming near Devil's Tower. He said it had less than 500 people in the whole town. The biggest industry was a lumber mill.
Baby sister, that explains why Gus has lumber running in his veins.
Here Gus is routing a slight bevel on the front stiles with a Freud 1/2 shank bevel bit. Since the stiles are 1 inch thick, compared to the rails 3/4 of an inch thickness, the bevel creates a nice overall accent. The next step is to assemble the front and the side of the clock body. Gus chose to connect and glue the sides to the front stiles, before gluing the rails to the stiles via the mortises and tenons. Gus has been using the Mercadero's sander now for 2 months, and he absolutely loves the sander. Gus's next video will compare this awesome sander to its new competition, the 3M Extract Orbital Sander. It will be so interesting to see which sander Gus believes is best. Since the pocket hole joinery was slightly off-centered, Gus evens it out by taking it to his Grizzly Edge sander. The edge sander is often used in Gus's shop, and it saves him a great deal of time. Gus now directs his attention to his CNC machine to carve the clock face numbers and Devil's Tower. Here Gus is using an Amana 60-degree V-bit to carve the numbers. His is using cherry for the clock face, which is covered with ornament stencil film 813. Gus is now carving the Devil's Tower, which was designed on Vectric Aspire CAD/CAM software. Gus will make a short video soon to show how he designed this 3D carving. Gus recently acquired the Infinity Complete Tapered Dovetail Spline Jig and decided to use it on the wall clock. Here he is cutting dovetail splines on the stiles to create a very unique appearance. Using a 14-degree dovetail 1/2 shank bit on the table, Gus took it very slow in order to prevent chipping. Using a smaller bit would have proved to be much easier. Infinity has a couple of excellent videos on YouTube detailing how to use the jig. The second part of the Infinity jig is used on the table saw to cut the tapered dovetail splines that fit comfortably in the dovetails. The following clips illustrate how this is accomplished. Here Gus is gluing the splines in the dovetails. Since the splines are tapered, he uses a wooden mallet to fit the splines firmly. I asked Gus as to why he included dovetails on the face of the clock, since I have never seen this before on a clock. Gus told me it is a Western thing. The dovetails remind him of arrowheads that Native Americans used to hunt bear and buffalo. Once dried, Gus uses the band saw to trim off the excess splines. Then it's on to the sanding station to sand the splines beautifully to the surfaces.
Berwick, how did Devil's Tower get all those scratches on its sides?
It had something to do with a big grizzly bear chasing Indian braves on top of a rising rock. The bear scratched the sides trying to get to the braves.
Once the dovetail splines are completed, Gus turns to milling the top and bottom of the clock, which are identical. After cutting the backs to size, Gus heads over to the router table to round over the top and bottom. He also uses the table to cut the rabbit in the back.
Berwick, Gus told me there are flying saucers at Devil's Tower.
Not really, bro. Actually, 40 years ago a movie about flying saucers was made at Devil's Tower. The movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, was filmed right at the tower. It really made Devil's Tower much more famous.
Gus has a few miter gauges, but he prefers the woodpecker's exact 90 miter gauge, especially working with wider boards, plywood when cross-cutting. The miter gauge has a flop stop that prevents flopping, especially with wider boards. This allows for a dead square cut. To attach the top and bottom to the clock frame, Gus decides to use his benchtop mortise machine to cut the mortises where the screws will be attached to the frame. Once the screws are in place, Gus will cut oak plugs to fill the mortises. The Powermatic Benchtop 701 mortise machine is a great way to cut square mortises. As plunge routers start to dominate the mortise market, these machines are found less and less in woodshops. The 701 has one function: to cut square mortises. And it does this very well. Here Gus is attaching the top and bottom by attaching screws to the frame. To fill the mortise holes, Gus crosscuts small oak plugs to fill the holes. Once the plugs are cut, Gus glues them in the mortises, cuts off the excess with the band saw, then sands the top and bottom. So now it is off to the finishing area to start the finishing process on the clock frame. Gus starts off by thoroughly cleaning the surface with OD solvent. Like all OD's products, the solvent has a very pleasant citrus aroma. Gus has chosen to use a dark walnut Danish oil finish. He applies 2 coats, then once dried, applies 2 coats of lacquer. Turning to the clock face, Gus first applies a coating of sanding sealer to the entire face. This helps to seal the wood fibers so there won't be any paint smearing. Gus uses a water-based black milk paint to paint the numbers. He covers the 3D carving to prevent any paint smearing. Gus applies 2 coats to ensure total coverage and durability. Once the milk paint has dried, Gus turns to sanding the 3D model. This is a very tedious process, requiring a lot of patience. It's important to sand with the grain to ensure prevention of scratches. Once sanding is complete and the face is completely dust-free, Gus applies General Finishes glaze. Once the glaze covers the 3D model and completely dry, Gus applies a coat of Deft Lacquer semi-gloss using the spray can. Once dry, Gus repeats the process. Glaze is used to apply on top of varnish or lacquer, then, when dry, covered with another coating of lacquer. Gus uses this technique on all his signs that have 3D carvings. The glaze helps to highlight the 3D models. Finally, Gus uses 3 to 4 coats of Deft Spray Lacquer Semi-Gloss on the clock body. Deft dries very quickly, so you can usually get 3 coats accomplished in around 2 days. Gus wraps up the project by attaching the 2 backs. First the back to support the clock face, and Matawi's 6" by 6" tile. These are attached using Gorilla Spray glue. As customary, Gus adds his logo and special words to his brother on the back by using his Glowforge Pro laser. As always, it is so much fun to narrate Gus's videos, and this one was special. Wyoming and the Outback are similar in so many ways. And it was great learning so much about Devil's Tower.
Berwick, how is Gus going to get the clock out to his brother Steve? He lives way out in Gillette, Wyoming.
Bror baby sister, I believe he will send it the quickest way possible to Wyoming. The Stagecoach Express.
No, Barrick, we're not going to put this on the Stagecoach Express. We're not going to send it to UPS. We're not going to send it to FedEx. I'm going to hand carry this baby when next time I fly to Wyoming. I really enjoyed making this clock. There was a lot involved with it. I especially enjoyed using the infinity jig to do the dovetails. Great jig. I really look forward to exploring more capabilities with that. Enjoyed the FMT Pro from Lee Industries for the mortise and tenons, and I'll probably be using that a lot in the future. Congratulations to Lee Industries. I understand they're celebrating their 40th anniversary. Great company. And mask pocket hole jig, check it out. Before you decide you want to buy maybe a Craig or something, check it out because it's a solid jig. And finally, Matawi tiles that I used here. A wonderful success story for a small business, small company. They do a fantastic job with these tiles, and it really ties nicely into these types of clocks, the shaker clocks. So with that, thank you so much for watching the video, and hopefully you'll get to see my future ones, and I hope you all take care. Bye-bye.